Everybody who loves this crazy game is in pursuit of distance and speed and trying to maximize the technology that you have in your hands. And sometimes the answer to that search is a little simpler than we might think. There's some physicality involved in it, and there's some training involved in it. And a few years ago at the PGA show in Orlando, I first encountered the folks from Super Speed Golf. This is the world where the device in your hand doesn't really look all that fancy. You don't have to connect it to anything. You don't have to plug it in to recharge it. You just have to commit to it and learn the best ways to maximize what your body is capable of doing. So I'm excited to welcome into the program and have a conversation with a guy who knows the research side of this as well as anybody. Tyler Standiford from Super Speed Golf joins us, Director of Research. And anytime I see biomechanics professor, I already have to kind of step back a little bit and make sure that I don't say the wrong thing here, Professor. So how are you? Welcome into the show.
You're gonna pass the test, Bill. I know that with confidence, and it's great to be with you today to talk about the things that you're bringing up, and maybe give a little bit of science behind the basic stuff that the golfers just need to do, and I can fill in the pieces there.
Well, the other thing that it brings not only is knowledge, but it also brings some degree of hope. I'm not pretending that everybody listening, myself included, we're not going to match the numbers that we're seeing of the top stars on the PGA Tour because they're swinging at speeds that they just don't make any sense, and my spine would snap instantly if I even came close to trying that. However, there are gains that can be made incrementally, and it's not really a complicated process, right?
No, and I love that you say that. So I've done probably 5 or 6 research studies in my $200,000 lab looking at all of the intricacies of what happens as we speed train. But I think the main message I like to share with golfers is that I've seen a golfer as young as 6 and as old as 80 come through my lab. And every single time in my studies, the average swing speed gains after 6 weeks of training are right around about 5 to 6%.
Wow.
And I think that's a percentage that golfers say, well, is that meaningful, Tyler? I always like to put it in distance. It ends up being about 15 to 20 more yards off the tee.
And I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this conversation would gladly sign up for that pretty much instantly. And the journey to getting that added distance it's a little daily discipline. It's a regular routine, but it's not overly complicated. You don't have to go get a membership somewhere and have a guru whipping you with logs as you're doing this. Kind of take us through how the science of incremental weight increase helps with speed increase.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, right? It's a simple process. We ask golfers to give us 3 days a week, about 15, 20 minutes a day. The beauty of it is you don't have to be at a golf course. You're not hitting golf balls. You're using a 3-club system with a few clubs that are lighter than your driver, 1 club that's heavier than your driver. And from a biomechanical standpoint, to keep it real simple, but a little complex, is that we're taking away inertia or resistance and then adding inertia or resistance in a very systematic way that allows you to start swinging these clubs faster than your regular driver. You'll take about 39 swings in each session after a good warm-up. And we've kind of done all the thought process and the technology and the research behind it. All you have to do is take this club, move it as fast as you possibly can, be consistent in the training, and those speed gains are there to be had.
It sounds a little too simple. And I remember the first time I saw the super speed display in Orlando. This shows you how cutting edge my mind was operating. I was like, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Who's going to go buy weighted sticks and here you are now, all these years later, as one of the industry leaders in this category, this very unique category. And I think one of the reasons for that longevity is connected into the simplicity of the program and of the device, or the devices, so to speak. Tyler, we do live in a world where everything's got to connect to Bluetooth. We just bought a new refrigerator and they wondered if I wanted the one that connected into my Wi-Fi. I'm like, no, I just like a cold glass of milk every once in a while. And so there's this benefit, I think, to connecting to the core of simplicity for golfers, where you don't have to wonder where your charging cable is, where all this other stuff. You just need to commit to the routine, right?
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up, because again, in my experience with this, the golfers who have the very greatest benefits are the ones who can actually adhere to the program.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea, and I've done this training myself for the last 2 or 3 years because I'm an avid golfer. I love to golf. And so I knew this would help me in my game, but I love that I can just head it into my back patio, and all I have to do is grab my radar that's battery powered, grab my clubs, and swing them. I don't have to, like you said, find my phone. Is my phone charged? Is this charged? How can that all work? It's very simple, this process. And you mentioned why I think super speed's been around for so long. I think part of it is the simplicity, but I think a second big key is the results.
Yeah.
And I think that the results speak for themselves. Every time I do a study, and typically what I do is I analyze how golfers are generating force, how their body's moving, all of the TrackMan data. I send them on their way for 6 weeks to train, and then they come back into my lab. And I always kind of almost like half look at their first swing with my eyes half closed, thinking, yeah, I hope this worked. And every single time you can almost hear it. You're like, yeah, it worked. And I see that number jump up 6 miles per hour and distance go up 15, 20 yards. And that player obviously be extremely excited about those results.
I'm 55 years old, and so I pay more attention to PGA Tour champions numbers than I would PGA Tour numbers because, while I'm 55 years old. I'm out at an event earlier this season, and I see Padraig Harrington warming up, and he's got the sticks, and this guy is creating a vortex that if you get caught up in that, I think you're going to get sucked into it and thrown out the other end. He was getting after it. And if you look back at some of his numbers over the past 5-ish years, he has made incredible leaps in distance and obviously the speed that's part of that. As you said earlier, you've had people from age 6 to age 80 in your studio. What is the core audience for super speed golf? If you had a median age in there?
Yeah, honestly, it would be probably right around your age.
Yeah.
I think we see a lot of players who, throughout the course of their golf career, things are going well, things are going smooth. And then again, we get a few years older, our bodies may be moving a little bit more slowly, and you come back after an off season, and all of a sudden you're hitting your driver a little shorter than you used to, and you start searching, how can I hit the ball farther? And so I would say that our older golfers, our over 45, our over 50, they've got maybe a little bit more discretionary income to throw at their golf game. They maybe have a little bit of time, but they also have a body that really, really needs this training. Because as we age, we start to lose the capacity for our motor units and muscle fibers and brain to communicate with our body in ways that allow us to go fast. And I think Padraig's such a great ambassador because he's a person that's just said, well, what if I just keep telling my brain and body to move fast? And it's worked for him.
It's so funny you say that, Tyler. I've become friends over the years with Butch Harmon, and when we were together, it was a couple of years ago. I said, Butch, if you don't mind, can I just hit a few shots? Can you tell me why the ball's not going anywhere? And as you would expect from Butch, he doesn't pull any punches, and he's so funny. He says, how about you go ahead and swing at the ball? And I thought I really did. I thought, so then I began a more regular analysis of what I was doing with somebody nearby would have a TrackMan or some sort of a launch monitor. And I'm like, well, that thing must be broken because I'm giving it all I've got. And we're not hitting triple digits. And we had these discussions that would be fairly circular, where whoever the golf professional was with the launch monitor would just kind of look at me like, I know you think you're swinging hard. You're not moving. Your body's not part of this process. You can feel it, but the numbers don't lie. So then just a few months ago, actually probably about a year ago, I visited with one of the leading instructors in my part of the world here in Michigan. This guy is a bomber and a really good teacher. And I said, so what do you do? He's like 25 years old. So what do you do to train your body to do this? And he said, oh, I use super speed golf. That's all I use. And he went through his routine. And he also said that not only does he go through the three weighted clubs on the program, but he also does them left-handed. And I wonder if you could kind of help fill in some of the blanks for why that matters. Why is it good for our body, good for our balance, to do it not only your dominant way with your right-handed golfer to swing normal, but then to also flip your hands around and do it the other way?
Yeah, so I actually did a research study on this, Bill. That's the way my brain thinks. I want to get data to support why these things work. And it was something that super speed was really big on, these non-dominant swings, a right-handed golfer making left-handed swing speeds. And I saw speed gains with groups who only train the non-dominant side, better force production of the ground. In my mind, why that's occurring, and again, in my background being in an exercise science world, there's a couple of things that are happening. One is that we're allowing those muscles of our core and body and arms to be utilized a little bit of a different way. We can contract muscles and make them shorten to produce force. We can also have muscles lengthen to produce force. And switching up how we swing allows us to attack both of those areas. There's some cool things. In fact, I was working with a player just last week, Bill, and this is what happens every time I introduce this to them. They take their right-handed swings as a right-handed golfer. I hand them the club and I say, okay, now we're going to do that same thing, but you're going to swing left-handed. And they get this quizzical look on their face, and then they start really thinking. And when they get that look on their face, I say, this is why this is going to work, because their brain starts to actually have to think about how they create speed. It's called a dynamic systems theory. And what happens is we give them that same task, but we have them do it a little bit differently. And all of a sudden their brain just fires up like crazy. And they start sending all these pathways in different ways than they never have before. And that then actually transfers over to things they do in the right side. So it's better muscle contractions, it's better brain activity, it's good balance and flexibility. All of those things are a reason why that's so important.
When I first started taking left-handed swings and I had a camera nearby, man, that was some ugly video. I'm not saying today that it's Ernie Els and poetry in motion left-handed, but it's a little bit better because it was such a foreign feeling. And my balance has improved because of it. I think I've been doing that now for about 6 to 8 months on a pretty regular basis as part of a almost daily routine with super speed. And in the end, here's the thing that a guy at my age wants to hear, wants to see, wants to experience. You want to be hitting shorter irons into long par fours. You want to be able to reach par fives. You want to have every once in a while, you want to have one of your golfing buddies go, do we need to have you pee in a cup? What has happened here? And the truth is that the distance that I've gained, and I'm not exaggerating, it's been about 25 yards off the tee with driver in hand, and the irons have all gotten longer. Maybe not that much, but it's all relative. For me, it's been a rewarding payoff to the commitment. I'm glad that I didn't get through several months of this and go, well, that was a waste of time, right? Yeah. I would have to think, well, the longevity proves it. You guys are being successful because golfers are seeing the results.
Yeah, and I love, if I can put in this piece of muscle physiology that I think is really important, which is a lot of research tries to tie into what actually changes with our muscles and our brain's communication with those muscles as we age. And more they're kind of coming up with an idea of that a lot of what it is that we just stop using those muscles in ways that we did as 20 years old and 25-year-old, right? We just don't move very fast. And then our body kind of says, well, we don't need muscles that move fast anymore. And so what this really does for golfers, I think of all ages, who maybe have desk jobs and maybe they don't get to do the exercise that they want to do, it retrains that. It helps you capture this feeling that you can move fast. It's okay to move fast. And again, like the story you just told me, Bill, that's my own story. I've gained, actually, no lie, in 2 years, I've probably gained 40, 45 yards off the tee.
Wow.
And again, like you said, my friends are like, I've never seen you hit the driver so far. Just these things, they happen again and again and again. And so this is where I just encourage golfers, like, the gains are there to be had. Get after it, be adherent, and you can get faster and hit the ball farther, and frankly, make golf more fun because of it.
One of the things that I'm really pleased that you guys offer is not just the 3 weighted clubs, training clubs, but also a device to measure how you're going with all of this. So it's called the PRGR. I'm sure there's some other name for it, but this is one of those devices. And if you're watching the YouTube version of our conversation, I'm holding it up. This is one of those devices that could have been made in a lot more complicated fashion. This could, in fact, well, there are some others that I could pull out of my studio and show you right now, and it would take me about 6 minutes to get it all configured and set up. This has its own, put 4 AAA batteries in the back. It's an LCD display, so it's not fancy from a connectivity standpoint. But this allows you to do something that most all launch monitors do not, and that is to measure your speed without hitting a ball. That was a big deal for me. I am a big fan of simplicity, and through all of these months of using the sticks, you're trying. Am I getting faster?
Yeah.
What's the data? You're a data guy. What's the data showing? I can put this now on the ground right behind. I can take the swings and I can see it in instant real time. The PRGR.
Yeah. And I think, Bill, the data of the gains is important. The other thing, and I'm sure you've noticed this in your own training, it gives you that feedback. If you make a swing, you think, I'm going to make this the fastest swing of my life. You make it and your speed goes down 5 miles an hour. And you're like, what did I just do there? And then you think, okay, well, let's try this. Oh, speeds went up 3 miles per hour. And so the feedback in the training allows you to almost uncover the way your body wants to create speed. And then you can transfer that to your training, and then you can transfer that to the golf course.
I was watching a couple of other videos on YouTube from a few years ago, probably the early iterations of the PRGR, and they were doing side-by-side comparisons with TrackMan. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. The TrackMan's $25,000, and this is a couple $100. And I was pleasantly surprised to see how close the numbers came out. I mean, within a single-digit percentage point,
yeah,
matching up what the pros are carrying with them to each tour stop. And I understand there are far more data points, and I'm not trying to make the case that this is going to match TrackMan. But for what we're doing in the context of our conversation, this kit that you're offering that has this training sticks and this device in it is as good a value as you're going to find anywhere in the training world.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think the accuracy of it allows you to know that your gains are actually true. And I love the idea of the value of it, right? I mean, you think about the idea of how many golfers are going to spend money on new drivers or shaft fittings, which I'm all for new drivers and shaft fittings, right? Like, that's always important. But at a fraction of the price of a new driver, maybe even half the price of some of the new drivers these days, you're going to pick up 20, 25 yards, and that's going to go throughout the bag. So you kind of start to think, when was the last time a new driver had you gain 25 yards? And then when did that also transfer to those irons? And all of a sudden you start thinking, man, this is maybe a good use of my resources, especially I would assume you, like us in Utah, Bill, are heading into an off season,
right,
where it's going to get cold and it's going to get dark and it's going to get a little bit sad for the game of golf. What a great time to dedicate, 10, 12 weeks to speed training and come out in the next year hitting the ball farther than you ever have before.
Well, Tyler, I can tell you right now what the light bulb moment was for me. And it was winter, and I was in Florida playing that, couple rounds of golf that you get while you're somewhere warm, and then you're coming back home to the tundra. And I still remember it. I was at Eaglebrook golf club in Lakeland, Florida, par three, over water, like 175 yards. And I take out a 6-iron, which is my 170, 180 club, depending on a lot of factors, including what I had for dinner the night before. And I was 25 yards short of a well-struck shot. I ended up in the front bunker, and I was just so irritated because I had been doing a lot of core exercises, a lot of stretching. I'm pretty fit for a guy my age and do something every day in my own little personal gym here. And I was ticked off. I had nobody to blame but myself. And so I began trying to figure out how all this works. Well, I knew I was coming back home to the tundra. And that's when I really decided, oh, I've got these sticks. Why don't we give this a try? And that's when I started seeking some input from the other professionals, and they were telling me, you swing for the fences. You've got to train your body to get moving. And that's kind of what started all this. And thankfully, those distances now that I was hitting 20 years ago are back. And I do give the credit to the program that you're talking about.
Well, that's awesome. And I like that you mentioned program. I think all of us have probably at one time in our life bought a training device for golf, whatever it might be. For me, Bill, it was the Classy Swing Magic. I don't know if you remember that one with the sliding grip.
Yes.
This was a lot of years ago. I saw this on the Golf Channel. I bought this club. I used it for, I don't know, half a summer, but I had no idea how to use it. And it's sitting in my dad's shed to this day, probably 25 years later. My favorite part about Super Speed is the program that they have with the device, right? With the it's not just, hey, take these clubs in this and have at it. I get to research that training program. We change it based on new research. It's targeted, it's directed. We know that it works well. And it's a plug and play, right? It's a follow it, do this number of swings, this many days a week, do this warm up. And it comes with that training for the next 2 to 3 years that you can do, and then just continue on after that. And I love that it comes with something that tells you how to use the training aid.
So what's next in this super speed world? Are you staying simple? Are you working on another iteration of all of this that we'll see, in January at the PGA show? What's coming next?
Yeah, great question. So I have no idea what I'm able to say, so I'm just going to say as much as I can. And if I get in trouble, I'll be in trouble later. But
you can break the news here. It's
exactly breaking news here with Bill. So I would say that we understand that a lot of our population craves that simplicity, right? They just want to grab the clubs, grab the radar, get after it, and go. But we also understand we live in a world where technology is something that is here. And so we are currently in the process of developing an app that if golfers want to choose to utilize that app to keep track of their training, to direct some of the training, that's something that they can do. What we're really excited about is some of these advanced speed protocols that we have coming out here probably in the next last part of this year and then early next year, where we've been able to go in and utilize the data that we've collected on force plates and motion capture systems to give even kind of the next iteration of the training. You've been through super speed for a year or two. Let's take it to the next level. Let's add some drills. Let's add some new ways to create speed. We're looking at all the ways that we can create speed. So one of the favorite parts of my job at Super Speed, Bill, is when a package shows up on my porch. And it's them sending me something, say, hey, can you test this and see what it's going to do and if it's going to help our golfers gain more speed. And that's how we came up with the Super Speed C Club, which we have that can help a lot of things. We can't get into all the details of grip strength, Bill, but that's something we're seeing a lot of. And I'm currently collecting a lot of data on grip strength. And so we're training some grip strength now. And so I'm just excited to see the different ways that we can attack speed and help golfers continue to have these great benefits they've had in the past.
Well, we know it's an endless quest. Golfers are never satisfied because now that I've added distance to my game, it wouldn't hurt if I didn't 3-putt 4 times around. So if you guys can do something with that, that would be just fine as well. But as I said a few moments ago, it really is good and rewarding to be able to feel and see the tangible benefits of a commitment to a program. And can't say enough good things about what you and the team are doing there at Super Speed Golf. So keep up the good work. And thanks for the kind of inside look at why it all matters and the science behind it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I always love talking about this stuff, Bill, and I appreciate you having me on the show.